Have you ever looked at someone who's just, brilliant, someone you really admire, and then watched them make a decision that was just awful? It's one of the most confusing things to see. So today, we're going to break down exactly why this happens.
I mean, it just doesn't add up, right? Why do the smartest people in the room sometimes make the absolute worst choices? It's a frustrating pattern we've all seen, and it turns out there's an ancient way of thinking that explains exactly why it happens.
And just to be clear, we're not talking about just anyone. We're talking about those people who can look at a ridiculously complex problem and just see all the angles, the ones who can break it all down with what looks like total ease.
Yeah, these are the folks whose advice you'd normally beg for. Their track record is solid, their thinking is razor sharp, and they almost always get things right, which, of course, is what makes their failures so shocking.
And that's the really painful part. One bad call, one broken partnership, maybe one argument they just couldn't let go of, and suddenly, years of hard work just starts to unravel. So what is the blind spot? What are they missing?
To really get to the bottom of this, we can actually turn to some ancient wisdom. The Book of Proverbs, for instance, has been watching this exact human pattern for thousands of years. And here's the thing, it doesn't see this as some big mystery. It sees it as a warning sign.
Okay, so the whole problem really hinges on this one single fundamental misunderstanding that pretty much all of us make. We just assume that intelligence and wisdom are the same thing. But according to these ancient texts, they are not. Not even close. And that's exactly where all the trouble begins.
The difference is surprisingly simple when you lay it out. See, intelligence, that's your raw processing power. It's the ability to think. Wisdom, on the other hand, is all about the ability to choose well. And you can absolutely 100% have one without the other. You can be a genius at thinking and a total disaster at choosing.
Now, this phrase is absolutely crucial. Being wise in your own eyes, it doesn't mean you're dumb. Actually, it's the opposite. It's describing someone who has so much knowledge and trusts their own brain so completely that they become their own private, isolated authority on everything.
Wow, that sounds pretty extreme, doesn't it? But think about it for a second. A fool often knows they're a fool. They know they need help, so they're open to advice. But that confident mind, the one that's wise in its own eyes, it just stops listening. Advice starts to sound like annoying background noise, and warnings, they just feel totally unnecessary.
So how does a sharp mind actually fall into this? Well, this ancient wisdom points to a really clear pattern. It lays out 3 common traps that cause a brilliant mind to turn inward on itself and eventually fail. So these 3 traps, they're basically how our greatest strength flips and becomes our biggest weakness. First, the mind gets so confident it just stops listening. Second, raw desire completely hijacks our intellect. And third, we get lost chasing big, shiny fantasies instead of dealing with reality. Let's dig into each one.
Okay, trap number 1, the confident mind. You see, intelligence can create such a powerful sense of self-reliance that your brain starts to defend its own conclusions instead of actually testing them. Think about a super successful CEO who starts believing their own hype. They hear clear warnings from their team, but it just sounds like noise. Counsel feels slow. Outside opinions just get in the way. Trap number 2 is all about desire. And when these strong emotions take over, our thinking doesn't just shut down. Oh no, it actually kicks into overdrive, but it's speeding in the wrong direction. A brilliant mind can work tirelessly not to find the truth, but to build the absolute best case argument for what the heart already wants. Your brain literally becomes a lawyer for your worst impulses. And the third trap? It's the lure of fantasy. Really intelligent people are often drawn to what's complex, clever, and new. They love big, exciting ideas. The danger is, they can get so obsessed with some world-changing vision that they totally neglect the simple, boring, everyday things that actually protect their future. They miss the obvious red flags right at their feet because they're staring at the stars. So, we've seen the traps. But here's the good news. If you can spot the pattern of failure, you can also spot the pattern of the solution. When smart people make foolish choices, it's almost always because a few key ingredients are missing from the recipe. And these missing ingredients are the direct antidotes to the traps we just talked about. Humility, that's the cure for the confident mind that stopped listening. Self-control, that's what puts the brakes on desire when it tries to overpower your reason. And practical judgment, that's what keeps your feet on the ground so you don't float away chasing fantasies. These are the stabilizers for our intelligence.
So here's the bottom line.
Intelligence all by itself is kind of like a race car engine with no steering wheel and no brakes. It's incredibly powerful, sure, but without humility, without self-control, and without a connection to reality, it's just unstable. Powerful, yes, but also incredibly dangerous.
And this brings us to the final and maybe most important idea. Wisdom doesn't ask you to be less intelligent. It doesn't want you to think less. It just asks you to think differently, to aim for a totally different goal.
When it all comes down to it, it's this. Your intellect is the accelerator. It can get you to some amazing places really, really fast. But wisdom is your braking system, your steering, your traction control. It's the thing that makes sure the whole journey doesn't end in a fiery crash.
And that's the real payoff here. That quick success that's driven by unchecked intelligence, it's often really fragile. The promise of wisdom isn't some shortcut to fame or fortune. No, it's something way more valuable, something that lasts, a life that's resilient, a life that actually holds together when things get tough.
So, as we wrap up, here's the question to really think about. In your own decisions, in your ambitions, what are you really building for? Are you building a life that's fast? Are you building one that's stable? The choice, ultimately, is yours.